In the world of billionaires, where wealth and influence can unlock any door, ambition and missteps still come with a cost. While fortune and fame provide a life of luxury and boundless opportunities, they do not grant immunity from consequences. When hidden truths emerge and poor choices demand accountability, not even the most powerful billionaires can evade the weight of their own actions. In today's video, we will explore the story of 10 billionaires who ended up behind bars where power and money couldn't save them from a tragic outcome. Let's dive into the unexpected tragedies of those who once stood at the top, only to face horrific punishments in the end. If you want to stay updated with more interesting stories and the latest information about trending events, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications to receive our newest videos. Leave your thoughts in the comments below. What do you think about these theories? We look forward to hearing from you so we can discuss and explore more fascinating stories together. Alan Stanford, a 110-year sentence. Once a name that symbolized success and prestige in the financial world in the early 2000s, Stanford lived a life that most people could only dream of. He owned a private jet, a luxurious yacht, and even cricket teams. He turned Stanford International Bank in Antigua into a billion-dollar empire, attracting clients from around the world with promises of high returns. The island was almost his playground, where he hosted grand events and met with politicians and famous celebrities. Behind the illusion of wealth and prestige lay a $7 billion Ponzi scheme. For over 2 decades, Stanford lured investors with promises of secure, high-yield certificates of deposit in the Caribbean. In truth, their money never grew. Stanford simply funneled funds from new investors to pay off earlier ones, a textbook example of financial deception. When the scheme unraveled in 2009, thousands saw their life savings vanish. In 2012, a U.S. court handed Stanford a staggering 110-year prison sentence, one of the toughest ever imposed on a financier. Yet even in the courtroom, he remained unrepentant, dismissing the charges as a grand conspiracy rather than accepting responsibility for his crimes. Stanford's lack of remorse likely played a role in the judge's decision to impose such a severe sentence. Now at 74, he languishes in a high-security prison, a stark contrast to the lavish life he once flaunted. Ordered to repay nearly $6 billion in restitution, he remains powerless to undo the damage, while many of his victims are still waiting for justice. John Kapoor, the opioid kingpin. As the founder of Insys Therapeutics, Kapoor didn't run a typical pharmaceutical company. His business was built on a dark secret, bribing doctors to prescribe the company's powerful fentanyl spray, even when it wasn't medically necessary. Aggressive marketing tactics and bribes helped fuel the opioid epidemic, causing untold pain for countless American families. Kapoor's downfall began when federal authorities launched a criminal investigation into Insys's activities. Evidence revealed that the company pressured doctors to prescribe higher doses of the addictive drug, leading to increased misuse and overdose deaths. Insys's bribery system wasn't limited to cash. It also included lavish parties, luxury trips, and even sexual services to entice doctors to prescribe more. In 2020, Kapoor was sentenced to 5.5 years in prison, becoming the first billionaire pharmaceutical CEO to receive such a severe punishment for his role in the opioid crisis. In addition to the prison sentence, he was ordered to pay tens of millions of dollars in restitution to the victims affected by INSIS's addictive drug distribution campaign. However, for many families who lost loved ones to opioid overdoses, Kapoor's sentence still wasn't enough to compensate for the pain he caused. In a surprising turn of events, Kapoor was transferred to home confinement in June 2023 due to the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on prison communities. This move sparked public outrage as a mastermind behind the opioid crisis was granted leniency while millions of Americans continue to struggle with the aftermath of the opioid epidemic. Kapoor's scandal not only shook the pharmaceutical industry, but also raised questions about the ethics and accountability of those in power within the healthcare system. Prakash Hinduja, The Price of Greed. As a key figure in the billionaire Hinduja dynasty, Prakash enjoyed decades of wealth and influence, overseeing a vast empire spanning industries from information technology to real estate, with a fortune estimated at $20 billion. But in 2023, his legacy crumbled when he became embroiled in a scandal over labor exploitation at his opulent Swiss villa, tarnishing his once powerful name. Prakash, along with his wife, son, and daughter-in-law, faced accusations of exploiting domestic workers brought from India under false promises of a better life. Instead, they found themselves trapped in a grim reality, stripped of their passports, confined to the villa and forced to work up to 18 hours a day for wages deposited into Indian bank accounts they couldn't access. Living in constant fear, some were even forced to sleep on the basement floor, deprived of basic human dignity and necessities. In court, the family faced grave human trafficking charges, but while those were dismissed, they were found guilty of labor exploitation. Prakash and his relatives received prison sentences ranging from 4 to 4.5 years. Despite their legal team's plea for leniency due to Prakash's failing health, the court stood firm on its verdict. Authorities also seized assets, including valuable gemstones, to cover potential penalties. For a billionaire who once lived in Swiss luxury, this marked a dramatic and humbling downfall. Despite wielding immense power and influence, Prakash Hinduja was known for his modest lifestyle and deep commitment to family values. The Hinduja family built their legacy not just through business success, but also through their contributions to society, championing the idea that true wealth is rooted in ethical practices and a lifelong dedication to community development. Changpeng Zhao, CZ, the crypto king's downfall. Widely known as CZ, he became a towering figure in the cryptocurrency industry. As the mastermind behind Binance, the world's largest crypto exchange, he amassed a staggering $43 billion fortune. However, unlike others on this list, his downfall wasn't tied to violence or exploitation, but rather his disregard for regulations in the volatile and unpredictable world of cryptocurrency. CZ's legal troubles began when U.S. authorities accused Binance of flouting anti-money laundering laws and enabling suspicious transactions tied to terrorist organizations. Known for his lax stance on regulations, CZ once told his team, "Better to ask for forgiveness than permission," a mindset that did not sit well with prosecutors. They pushed for a 3-year sentence, citing the global security risks his actions posed. However, the judge handed down a lighter sentence, just 4 months, recognizing his cooperation while underscoring the importance of accountability. Though now a convicted felon, CZ's grip on the cryptocurrency world remains strong. He stepped down as CEO but still wields influence through key allies on Binance's board. Meanwhile, the exchange faces mounting legal battles with billions of dollars hanging in the balance. His time behind bars may be brief compared to others on this list, but it marks a turning point for the crypto industry, once seen as a playground for untouchable billionaires. Yet, when immense wealth puts a target on your back, fortunes can shift in an instant. As the cryptocurrency landscape shifts, CZ's conviction stands as a defining moment, proof that even the richest and most powerful figures in this emerging industry are not beyond the law's grasp. Wealth and influence can only go so far when challenging regulatory authorities. This case also casts uncertainty over the future of Binance and other crypto giants as governments tighten their grip and enforce stricter oversight on the once largely unregulated market. Bernie Madoff, once one of the most respected financiers in the world, has now become one of the most notorious figures in the history of financial crime. His Ponzi scheme defrauded investors of billions of dollars, leaving a devastating mark that affected thousands of people, from ordinary individuals to billionaires. Madoff's charm and credibility in the financial world convinced many, including wealthy investors and large institutions, to get caught up in his fraud without ever suspecting it. After being convicted in 2009, Madoff was sentenced to 150 years in prison, where he would spend the rest of his life. Madoff's Ponzi scheme, which lasted for decades, has been described as the largest financial fraud in history, causing damage not only financially, but also to the reputation of the global financial system. His downfall remains a chilling reminder of how greed and deception can bring even the most powerful individuals to ruin. Madoff's actions not only stripped thousands of people of their wealth, but also left a significant stain on the financial world, making many more cautious about investing and trading. El Chapo Guzman, the downfall of a drug empire. As the mastermind behind the Sinaloa cartel, El Chapo orchestrated the trafficking of vast quantities of cocaine, heroin, methamphetamines, and marijuana into the U.S. At its height, his cartel controlled nearly a quarter of the drug trade between Mexico and the U.S., cementing his status as one of the most feared and influential drug lords in history. El Chapo's knack for escaping the law turned him into a legend in the underworld. In 2001, he slipped out of a high-security Mexican prison by hiding in a laundry cart. And in 2014, he staged an even bolder getaway, vanishing through a mile-long tunnel dug straight to his cell, leaving authorities humiliated once again. By 2016, the Mexican government had run out of patience, and under mounting pressure from the U.S., they extradited El Chapo to American soil to face justice. In a sensational 2019 trial in Brooklyn, he was found guilty on all counts, including drug trafficking, money laundering, and leading a criminal empire. The court ordered him to forfeit $12.6 billion, his estimated fortune from years of illicit operations. El Chapo now serves a life sentence at ADX Florence, the infamous Supermax prison dubbed the Alcatraz of the Rockies. Once a feared kingpin commanding vast wealth and influence, he now spends his days in total isolation. Despite his family's desperate attempts to orchestrate another escape, every effort has failed. His fate stands as a stark reminder that even the most powerful criminals cannot outrun justice forever. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to like, share, and subscribe to the channel so you won't miss more gripping content. Drop your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you. Mikhail Khodorkovsky and Platon Lebedev, the reversal of Russian oil billionaires. Mikhail Khodorkovsky and Platon Lebedev were once synonymous with wealth and power, leading Yukos, a giant oil company. They held significant influence in the early 2000s, and at its peak, Khodorkovsky was the richest man in Russia, with a fortune that made him a political threat to then-President Vladimir Putin. This confrontation ultimately determined their fate. In 2003, Khodorkovsky and Lebedev were arrested on charges of tax evasion, an accusation many believed was politically motivated. They argued that these charges were merely a way for Putin to seize Yukos and silence opposition. Their trial attracted global attention, with many human rights organizations condemning the methods of the Russian government. But the story didn't end there. Just when they thought they might be released in 2011, new charges of corruption and money laundering were brought against them, extending their prison sentences. In 2013, in a surprising move, Putin granted Khodorkovsky a pardon, and Lebedev was released a year later. Although they are no longer in prison, a decade behind bars left deep scars on their lives. Yukos was dissolved and merged into state-owned companies, and Khodorkovsky, once a symbol of success in Russia's capitalist economy, became a strong critic of the Kremlin. 10 years of hard labor couldn't crush Khodorkovsky's spirit, but not every billionaire can leave prison with an ideal. Some walk out with their reputations destroyed. Raj Rajaratnam, the notorious insider trader of Wall Street. As the founder of Galleon Group, a $7 billion investment fund, he was once an ideal figure with extensive connections and remarkable sharpness. However, everything collapsed when the FBI uncovered a massive insider trading ring. Rajaratnam exploited a network providing insider information to gain an unfair advantage in the stock market. Convicted on 14 counts of fraud and conspiracy, Rajaratnam became the focal point of the largest insider trading scandal in U.S. history. In 2011, he received an 11-year prison sentence, the harshest sentence ever handed down for this charge at the time. A number of high-ranking figures linked to him were also investigated, exposing widespread manipulation and corruption on Wall Street. In 2019, after serving 8 years of his sentence, Rajaratnam was released and placed under home confinement under the First Step Act. He later published a book, Uneven Justice: The Plot to Sink Galleon, criticizing the U.S. justice system and claiming to be a victim. Nevertheless, the Galleon scandal remains a cautionary tale about the injustices in the financial markets and the risks of crossing legal boundaries. Elizabeth Holmes, from Silicon Valley star to inmate. Elizabeth Holmes, was not just a tech entrepreneur, she was a symbol of a new era in healthcare, with her deep voice and black turtleneck often compared to Steve Jobs. Holmes built an image that captivated Silicon Valley and Wall Street. Investors like Rupert Murdoch and Larry Ellison poured millions of dollars into Theranos, believing the company could change the future of medicine. But behind the flashy PR campaign was a dark reality. The blood testing technology that Holmes claimed to have developed didn't actually work as promised. Patients received incorrect test results, including misdiagnoses of diseases like cancer and HIV. For years, Holmes managed to avoid scrutiny by controlling the information, even going so far as to silence whistleblowers within the company. Former employees described a fearful work environment where anyone who questioned the technology was immediately shut down. The scandal finally broke when investigative journalist John Kiru exposed the fraud in the Wall Street Journal. By the time the truth came to light, Theranos had burned through nearly $1 billion of investor money. The downfall came quickly and brutally. Holmes was charged with multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy, and in 2022, she was sentenced to over 11 years in federal prison. The court ordered her to pay $452 million in restitution, but many of the victims, including Rupert Murdoch, have yet to receive a single penny. As of now, Holmes has only served a few months of her sentence, and the road ahead remains long. Her story, from the youngest self-made female billionaire to a convicted criminal, is one of the worst business collapses in history. Holmes's story is not just about ambition, but also about how far a person will go to create an illusion. Truong My Lan started her career selling cosmetics with her mother at a market stall. After the Doi Moi reforms in the late 1980s, she seized the opportunity and built a large fortune in real estate. My Lan acquired land and developed luxury hotels, restaurants, and commercial properties, capitalizing on Vietnam's rapid economic growth. However, her rise was driven by deep corruption, as she exploited her connections with officials to control valuable state-owned land at a fraction of its worth. In 2011, My Lan took her career to the next level by merging 3 struggling banks into Saigon Commercial Bank. Although Vietnamese law prohibits individuals from owning more than 5% of a bank's shares, she used proxies and shell companies to secretly control over 90% of the bank's operations. My Lan exploited the bank to carry out fake loans and offshore accounts. The scale of the fraud was so vast that the Vietnamese government had to launch a large-scale investigation with 2,700 witnesses and hundreds of officials involved. Although My Lan had significant influence, the truth was eventually exposed. The Vietnamese government publicly revealed all of her crimes, sparking a wave of outrage. The Communist Party saw this as an opportunity to set an example and sentenced My Lan to death in 2023. She became one of the few women to receive the death penalty for financial crimes. While the court ordered her to repay $27 billion, many doubt that this amount will ever be recovered. My Lan denied the charges and is expected to appeal. Her story is not only about personal ambition, but also about the danger of unchecked power in a rapidly changing economy. My Lan's case has become an important part of Vietnam's anti-corruption campaign, leading to hundreds of officials being disciplined or imprisoned. Thank you for watching today's video about billionaires who are now paying the price for their mistakes in prison. Though they were once symbols of success and power, in the end, it was their wrongful actions that cost them everything. This serves as a reminder that money and power cannot protect us from the consequences of the law. Remember, no one is above the law. See you in the next videos, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe to stay tuned for more thrilling stories.